All right, guys, welcome back to the No Victim Podcast. This is episode 11. 11. We got a special guest today. I'm here accompanied with one of my elite clients, Evan. Before I fully introduce Evan, I just wanted to kind of give you a backstory on him. So I met Evan through social media, and he contacted me because he wanted help growing his online coaching business, which was kind of like non-existent. He was working as a personal trainer, and then contacted me. He got on the elite program, and now he's a full-time coach. I'll kind of let him talk about the numbers that he's doing ever since he started working with me, and how that process has been. But without further ado, we have the legendary, the one and only Evan Quinn. Evan, welcome to the pod, bro.
Appreciate you getting me on here, man.
Good to have you here. It was kind of a fucking trek to get here. His first experience in Miami traffic.
Yeah, literally. Not even Miami traffic, just like a fucking crash. Like you can't even plan for that shit.
So this is kind of crazy because I didn't even know this, but Evan was telling us that it's been like 15 years since he got on a flight.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal because you coming out for the podcast, man. So I really appreciate you coming out, but so give people a little bit of a background on you because you're really breaking out into the industry now. You've been coaching online for only really a few months. I know you had
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
Barely.
You had a background in personal training, but kind of give people like your backstory, like where you're from and how you got into like fitness in the first place.
Yeah, so I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Grew up there. Literally hadn't left New England basically ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and basically I got into fitness when I was around 16 or 17. Started off when I was 120 pounds, so super fucking skinny. Like you would look at me back then and look at me now and be like, "There's no way like that could even happen."
Yeah.
And it was 8, 9, 10 years of just solid fucking work.
Yeah.
Basically started off playing sports, so running like track and field as a fucking a long distance runner.
Yeah.
So like you can imagine like the physique that those guys like kind of carry,
Opposite.
It's complete opposite.
Yeah.
And that started like hitting the gym and I was getting really strong, really good at it. Just doing it consistently. And I started like almost enjoying the gym more than I liked sport practice.
Yeah.
So like I'll look forward to like the team lifts and stuff instead of like the actual like running practice.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like why the fuck am I doing running? Like I'm just gonna keep lifting because like this is like what I actually enjoy doing. I actually went to school I went to UNH initially for computer science.
Okay.
Like that was like I went to the whole onboarding and everything. Hated it.
Yeah.
Went into like sports studies, which is more kind of like exercise science.
Yeah.
That was I guess their version at UNH. And basically just got my first trainer job at Equinox for about 2 years after I graduated. And that was a really good experience. But that was kind of how I like ended up dipping my feet in the water in the first place into, PT and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I also noticed too, like, if you go look at Evan's Instagram, and we'll tag his Instagram below in the description so you can go follow him and check him out and see what he's up to. But, I noticed you, and I didn't really know this until, I have all my elite clients have like a story sequence highlight showing kind of basically like the highlights of their life and kind of the low points and the high points and basically like the point A to point B transformation. And I really want to talk about this, bro, because you basically, you explained this in your Instagram story highlight, how you were like you were kind of like a party guy. You were like partying a lot. Was that at college or high school?
That was mostly college. Like I didn't even touch alcohol until I was like 19.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was all throughout college. Yeah.
Okay.
Ended up joining a fraternity at UNH. Like literally the first couple weeks I was there, just because I missed out in high school. I'm like, fuck it, I just want to like do this for like 4 years. I'm here.
Yeah.
And that was I was still obviously in the bodybuilding and like lifting and stuff, but it was almost just like I just wanted that just to get more engaged like socially.
Yeah.
But that was a fucking shit show, man. Like that was
Like, what do you mean a shit show?
like like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we would just have fucking like ragers at our house and everything, and just blackout drunk, hookup culture, stuff like that. And it's like it was.
Do you have any like crazy stories that you could talk about from that?
I'm trying to think. Not that I remember. Like honestly, like
I mean,
it was like everything was the fucking same.
Yeah.
It's like you like fucking get blackout. You like go in our dirty ass basement and like have a fucking party and that's it. Like
Yeah. And there's a lot of, because I mean, just in high school, because I started kind of working out in high school and taking bodybuilding seriously then, and even like in my college age, like there's a lot of people that will see bodybuilders and they like admire the way they look. But I think they don't really know like all the work that goes into it. And I'm sure, so the reason I'm saying that is I'm kind of curious, like, what was the point where you're like, oh, I'm gonna get into bodybuilding? Were you already bodybuilding then a little bit?
So no, it was just like I had the mentality of like, okay, like training hard and, you know, building a physique, but it wasn't like meal 1, 2, 3, 4. It wasn't be at the gym at the same time. It wasn't get 8 hours of sleep.
Got you.
It was more just like almost to look better socially, like when I was like going out and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the whole goal. And I feel like, you know, for a lot of guys in their like early 20s, that's also, you know, kind of the goal for them. You know?
Yeah, it's to look fucking jacked.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because that, I feel like that initially gets us into this.
Yeah.
But like eventually, you know,
That
like,
fades.
yeah, exactly. It fades. Yeah.
So kind of what was that point for you where you're like, because obviously you can't live both lifestyles at the fullest level.
No.
You know?
Not at all.
So what was the point for you where you're like, oh, I'm gonna lock into bodybuilding? Did you do a show before?
I did one show.
One show?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was last year. It was the Jay Cutler Classic.
Okay.
It was just like open middleweights.
I want to talk about that in just a second, but I'm curious, like, because to give up the fun basically for something else, like, what was the conversation like where you're like, oh, I'm gonna go full time, I'm gonna go hardcore in bodybuilding? Like, was it because you were not getting the results that you wanted, or you're like, did something happen? Did you have a falling out with the fraternity? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, so I actually did have a falling out with the fraternity.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually crazy.
Surprise.
So, yeah, no, it's obviously, you know, fake fucking friends, but
Yeah.
So, you know, it was senior year, and that was 2020, so it was like the COVID year.
Yeah.
So basically, I think it was like one guy in our house got COVID. And like we had to have like the whole house in lockdown, and I was pissed off because I couldn't go to the gym. So
okay.
I was literally like, so I was in our group chat, and I'm like, all right, you guys are fucking retarded. So I'm gonna like, I'm gonna go to the gym anyways, and like, fuck your rules. And
they said you couldn't go to the gym.
they said I couldn't go to the gym, and I was like, all right, like, fuck your rules. So I went anyways, and they like called the gym to like get me banned from there. And then like I realized it was like, all right, well, you guys aren't here for me. You guys aren't actually my friends. And I just like dipped out, went home, and like basically just did school from home for that whole year because I didn't want to live in that house.
Yeah.
So it was at that point where I was like, okay, well, I don't have a fraternity anymore. I don't have the social connection. So it's like, I'm not really partying anymore. Now I can really just lock into my bodybuilding and really start getting progress.
So you were so I kind of want to talk about the fraternity stuff because you ask certain people and they say things like, you know, Greek life changed my life and all this stuff and live by the code. And then there's another side of it where I hear a lot of people where they're like, it's all fake. It's all like hierarchies and shit. It's and this bunch of bullshit.
It's all fake.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
And I feel like there was like, you know, like I was one of the more like in shape guys in that fraternity. You know, there's like maybe like 2 or 3 guys I could, you know, count on my fingers that were like in the shape that I was in.
Yeah.
So I feel like there might have been like a little bit of just like, like envious kind of behavior or something. Just like, okay, like, we want to make sure this guy doesn't like fucking, we want to put this guy back down on our fucking level.
I genuinely believe that, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, you're good. Yeah.
Genuinely, I believe that like the worst enemy of like an insecure man is a man who's in shape, because I don't want to say anyone can make money, but like to build a physique, you can't like buy it. Like you can only get a good physique by being disciplined and really the things that are attached to your character, like
exactly
in like what's within you, not like what's outside of you. So I mean, dude, like just working out, like coming up in the game, it's like you work out, and the harder you work out, the harder you train, the more results you get. The more you start to separate yourself from the average person, the less understanding that they have, the less common understanding there is, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's so many things that happen like when like coming from other insecure people that it's like you almost don't even notice it until you like look back and be like, oh, that dude's like, he feels a certain way when I'm around.
Yeah.
Have you felt that from like I'm sure you even felt that at your gym? Like Equinox when you were working as a personal trainer.
That was even worse.
What do you think about that? Like, why do you think people are like that? Like, they just don't like muscular people.
Yeah, I seriously think it's like, because they know deep down they're not doing the things that are required to get the physique they want. Everybody wants to be jacked. Every man wants to be jacked, in shape, stuff like that.
Right.
But they know deep down they're not doing the things correctly. And they see somebody like, you or me, like, doing it, and they have results, and they're walking around with results, and it's like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck does this guy think he is?
And by the way, guys, we're not even really talking about like being a hardcore open bodybuilder, which I want to touch on. It's just being in shape.
It's literally just being in shape.
Yeah. And everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But you did compete once.
Yeah.
And that's that's a whole nother level of like living, like there's the lifestyle and then there's like prep.
Exactly.
And what was that experience like for you competing?
Yeah. So I was already kind of like living the lifestyle to maybe 80% at that point. And then I linked up with a coach at my gym.
Can you name drop?
Yeah. Josh Brown.
Okay.
Yeah. So
IFBB Pro?
So actually he's probably going to pretty soon.
Okay.
He's doing his competitive season right now. He's fucking killing it.
That's great.
But yeah, so I worked with him about probably 2 years ago at this point. And I just kind of told him, I'm a lifestyle bodybuilder. I want to take my physique to the next level. And he actually pushed me to want to do a show. He's like, all right, well, if you're going to walk around like this, like, we might as well compete. Yeah. So we did.
Was he impressed with the base that you built for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was already impressed that I was, already, mapping out my meals and stuff, already training like a motherfucker. So it's like, he said, if you're going to do this, you might as well just step on stage, see what you got.
Let me ask you this. What do you think, how did things change from lifestyle to then you're working with a coach, you're going to compete, like, because you're already living the lifestyle, you're already eating the meals. How did that change? You said you were doing 80%. What does that extra 20% look like?
So it's just not missing meals. So it was like, just a mentality switch of being like, okay, like if I'm up and I have another meal left, I'm just going to eat that meal and not just go to sleep. It was literally just that 20% change.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. Got you.
But yeah, it was like, it really wasn't a big switch because I was already doing it in my daily life.
Now, were you natural?
No.
Okay, no. So when did you decide to go to the dark side?
So that was, we're talking way back in the fucking fraternity days again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So that was when I was 21, and that was my first year living in the house as a junior.
Is that stuff popular in the fraternity? Steroids, gear?
In certain fraternities,
okay.
not in my fraternity.
Oh,
yeah, they fucking hated that shit.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so I was 21. I was taking 250 tests, and that was my first cycle ever.
Okay. How did you like that?
It was underwhelming.
Okay.
I mean, just to be completely honest, I mean, I was also drinking, partying 3 times a week, so that plays a role.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't the explosive results I was getting when I was taking like a gram of test with fucking D-ball and growth hormone
which ended up being later.
Yeah, exactly.
Later on. Okay,
yeah, way later.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just more of just like a boost, Stayed the same weight, just recomped a little bit, got leaner. Definitely looked better, increased my confidence, increased my drive, energy, all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm curious what your opinion is on this, because we've talked about this before ever since you started working with me, and we, when we have our meetings and we're constructing your content and what we want to look like, we noticed that when you talk about steroids, you get a lot more views, you get a lot more attention. Why do you think that there's this hyper fixation on steroids and performance enhancements?
I think it's such an interesting topic because it's like, because nobody really talks about it. Yeah. And it's just like this, this dark kind of like secret, and not even secret, just like, it's kind of like, what's the word? Taboo. Mm-hmm. Taboo. Yep. So, when somebody is openly talking about it, they're like, okay, like this guy, we can have a conversation with this guy because like he's open and I have all these questions that nobody else is fucking answering. Yeah. So, that's what kind of draws that engagement.
Do you think not to interrupt you, what you say? You're good.
No, I'm saying it's just fucking crazy when I post a video talking about this stuff, like the engagement goes like through the roof versus I'm just talking about, be more confident or whatever. And just like, it's like 500 views.
Yeah. We've discussed this, and how I train all you guys to really push on the controversial factor of the hooks, in your videos. Yeah. And And now what's really cool for me is seeing other big creators now stitch your videos, interact with it. There was a couple of names in the industry that are kind of like interacting with your content now.
I don't know if we want to name drop.
Yeah, we won't because of undisclosed reasons, but I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
That's person specifically,
Okay.
actually. Right. Yeah. But I noticed the thing about steroids, right, is like I believe that it's a very misunderstood topic.
Yes.
People think that it's like a magic pill. What's your opinion on that? Do you think there's like do you think that it's magic? Do you think that it's
not magic.
Yeah.
It's not. It works with everything else. Like it makes you train harder. It makes the food that you eat, like all your chicken, rice, beef, whatever, work better.
Yeah.
Like it just enhances your recovery. So it's like everything else has to work with the steroids.
Yeah.
But, I wish you could see some of the people that come into my DMs and like they'll tell me their fucking crazy cycles.
Insane.
And then I'll look at their pictures and it's like I can't even tell they go to the gym.
It's insane.
Where
do you think that gets lost? Like a hyperfixation on the steroids and under basically no focus on the nutrition and the training. Like why does that? Why do you think that happens?
Honestly, like I seriously think it was, I don't know if we want to like name drop people, but like certain people in the industry kind of like hyped it up more than they should have. I don't know if we're thinking of the same people.
The first name that comes to mind is Togi. That's like one of the first people that's named.
I was talking even before Togi.
Oh yeah, like who? I mean, you can name
like
drop.
Tony Huge.
Tony Huge is a great example.
Lloyd.
Boston Lloyd. Yeah,
I mean Boston Lloyd was still obviously on top of his shit.
Yeah,
but he hyper focused on that.
Yeah,
and like the crazy shit he was taking too. That could have. That built up a lot of popularity with the topic.
So rest in peace, Boston Lloyd. By the way, and also Rich Piana. I think Rich Piana played a part in that as well.
He wasn't as open about it.
No, he wasn't super like hyper fixated on it.
Yeah.
He was very like honest about it. To my understanding, because I've noticed, like, and you'll notice this too, like when you post things or you do things that seem like easy to do, that's what interests other people.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? When it seems like attractive.
It's so easy to just like fill up a syringe with 2 cc's of Tren and just like pin it in your delt. And it's like that's like the easiest part of body.
It burns a little bit, but it is easy.
Maybe it causes your fucking shoulders swelling, but all the other shit takes effort. So I think that's where that disconnect kind of comes. People want to take the easy way out, and there's no easy way out in this.
100%. And I've even noticed that with the way people ask me questions, the way people respond to me in the DMs, where they'll say, what's like the one thing that you need to know, or like what are some tips? Like they'll ask like the most general question. What are some tips that you can give me, and blah blah blah. And it's like, fuck the tips. That's not going to get you the results. And even when I do something as simple as like post a book or post like something from my research chemical sponsor, it's like people, my DMs flood because they're like, oh, I could do that. That's really easy. Like I could just take a liquid, or I can just read a book, and like that's like going to be the key.
Yeah.
But really, that stuff is like just like the sprinkle on top.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so I have a question about this, like, because a lot of coaches that are, or should I say, a lot of bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts, they follow the same trajectory. They work out, and then they say, well, I'm going to get my NASM certification, ISSA certification. I'm going to go work in the gym. I'm going to go get my feet wet and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to start my online coaching business. Do you think that it is necessary to be certified? And do you think that it's necessary to be in the gym personal trainer to do what you now do as an online coach?
So it's absolutely not necessary to be certified. That is out of the question. So I was never certified.
Wow.
Never.
So how did you get into Equinox if you weren't certified? Connections?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
So I think they were like desperate for hires at that time.
Wow.
They reached out to me.
Wow.
I don't know how they got my resume. It was just probably floating around on Indeed somewhere.
Yeah. Sure, mine is too.
Yeah, and I guess they found somebody that that fit their description.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of a background of it from school, but that was kind of how I landed that job in the first place. But going back to your question, it's the experience that matters.
Yeah.
Because you have to go through it yourself. You have to know what it feels like. You have to go through the pain. And it's like how you can't prescribe somebody something that you haven't done yourself.
100%. I'm curious what your opinion is on this.
Yeah.
Do you think that in terms of the results for the client, do you believe that in-person training is better or online coaching is better?
I would say online coaching.
Okay.
Well,
Why?
It depends on the level of the person too. But I found a lot of the people I worked with in person, they were already at that level, the same level of the people I'm coaching online.
Okay.
So it was more just like me almost giving them the same value I'm giving them online, but I was just babysitting their sessions.
Yeah.
And that was what that relationship turned into. Does that kind of make sense?
100%. Yeah. I actually want to touch on that because to my understanding, because the way I look at it, it's a completely different experience, right?
Yeah.
Because subconsciously, maybe consciously or subconsciously, if you are training someone in the gym, they're going to feel like they need you to have to be able to work out and just have a good workout or effective workout. And I'm sure you added in some nutrition guidance and stuff just because you're like, I'm not going to train this person and have it all go to fucking waste. So I might as well give you a free fucking diet plan just so you don't fuck up the workouts.
So that was literally what I was doing.
Yeah.
So every, the exact same meal plans, the exact same training plan, style of training and stuff, I would give that to my in-person clients.
Yeah.
And like me seeing them once or twice a week would be like their like weekly check-in.
Yeah.
The same check-ins I'm doing online with people,
Right. I love it, man. Yeah. Awesome. Now, what do you feel like, what did you not like about working in a gym?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say like mostly just it felt like unnecessary time I was spending there,
Like in what way?
Because kind of like, going back to what I was saying before, I got my clients to the point where they could train on their own. And I feel like that's kind of the goal as a trainer. You shouldn't have somebody babysitting your sessions forever.
100%.
So I almost felt like, I was doing my job by doing that. Because I would, see them once or twice a week, maybe 3 times, but I would always prescribe them stuff to do on their own. But it felt like I was just wasting my time there because I was just sitting through their sessions and being like, okay, cool. Leg press PR, squat PR, awesome, like good to go. Here's your nutrition plan for the week. Like,
so you believe, and of course I believe this as well, but you believe that there's like a fundamental difference between like holding someone's hand and then like empowering them to do it on their own. Yeah, exactly. And I would say like that's really the big fundamental difference between online coaching and in-person training.
Yeah. And it's like I feel like a lot of I'm not trying to shit on any other trainers here, but it's like I felt like they're
fuck them. Let's shit on all of them.
They're almost like holding back secrets and stuff. And they want to make them reliant on them to train to keep their business afloat. But for me, that was never my goal.
Yeah.
And it's like I almost felt like my business there was better at Equinox because I wasn't holding back those secrets.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So let me ask you this, like now, so you are a full-time online coach now.
Yeah.
How much were you pulling in a month at Equinox?
So it was, so our commission was, it was dependent on how many sessions we were doing per week.
Okay.
So I was doing about 25 to 30 sessions a week. And then I was pulling in, I would say about 65 an hour for those sessions.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think, just about maybe 5K or under a month.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. And got you. Okay. So then where was the point where you're like, oh, I want to like go into online coaching? Like, what was that conversation like in your head?
So just like going back to this real quick, when I started at Equinox, I thought that was the end all be all of personal training. I thought, okay, I got to Equinox, I made it. Like this is the, the fucking pinnacle of personal training.
Yeah.
But then I see motherfuckers like you or like, other people like killing online. I'm like, this is just like the bottom of the barrel.
Got you.
So it was like almost like midway through where I realized I could be doing so much better, helping so many more people if I'm not constricting my time to just being in this building.
So in other words, you became aware of a higher standard and you were like, oh, I want to see what that's about. I became curious because you saw other people online doing it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I saw people fucking killing online and it's just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to talk about some numbers too. I'm sure if you're comfortable, I'm sure you are comfortable with it just because of the results that you've gotten. And just full disclosure, like Evan is one of, if not like my best performing client, elite client ever. So let's give you guys a little bit of backstory for you guys that don't know. I started as a fitness coach online last year, did it, over $500,000 selling nutrition and training programs. So, because of that, my content started to change because I fundamentally like I really had a deep desire to want to help other people that were in a similar situation to me. And like, I was skinny when I started working out and I loved working out, and like building muscle gave me everything. Like bodybuilding, like it taught me the character traits and the principles like of success. Like it really did. But once I had the physique I wanted, the next problem that I had to deal with was making money. So once I figured that out and then was actually successful at something for fucking once in my life, I started to then, or other online fitness coaches started to ask me for help. And mostly people with like, it was a crazy dynamic. It was either people with like no followers just starting out, and even people with like twice the amount of followers that weren't making the money that they wanted. So, and then I started to do the elite coaching. So then I started to train like bodybuilders, fitness enthusiasts, personal trainers, how to go online full time. And I'm assuming you started following me on Instagram or TikTok. How long had you been following me on social media?
It's got to be under a year.
Under a year.
Just about. I don't even have TikTok installed.
Yeah. So good. Good.
Fucking brain rot.
Yeah, straight brain rot. So Evan ends up signing up for my 6-month program, and we got started, and the way that I coach all of my elite clients, and Evan knows this, is I really coach off a bottleneck basis. So like I give a blueprint to my business clients. I give them the tools that they need to be able to build their business, but then we coach on a bottleneck basis, which means like whatever the bottleneck is in your business, and we work very closely together to say, okay, well, let's look at the data and what is the data telling us? Because based off of the data, because how the things that I have you track, like I have you track your content, your DMs. And I told you in the beginning, I said, these numbers are going to tell us what we need to know to be able to take the next steps in your business. So, we got started and, making a couple sales here and there. And then your second month with me, how much did you end up making your second month on the program?
So the first month, I think I made under 1,000.
Okay.
Just like literally just getting my feet wet. And then the second month was 11.5K.
Yeah. So basically around like 12 grand, $11,000. So you basically doubled your monthly income, and you work online now.
Yeah. So
you were working basically like full time at Equinox, maybe longer than that full time, making about, on a good month, like $6 grand a month.
Yeah.
And you doubled that online working with me. And I think this month you're at what, a little over $7 grand?
A little over 7. Yeah.
So pretty crazy, which congrats. That's fucking huge. What's that been like for you, dude? Like you literally doubled your fucking income, and you also, your lifestyle, like the way you make money completely changed.
Doesn't really feel real.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like
more like, what's your life like? Is your more freedom? Cause I mean, you're a bodybuilder through and through. So it's like,
regardless of the situation, obviously being a bodybuilder, you make it work with whatever situation.
Yeah.
But it's less stressful. Yeah. Because I make my own schedule.
Yeah.
So, and the routine is always there.
Yeah.
So when I worked at Equinox, it would have been, like my schedule was not consistent whatsoever.
Yeah.
So some days I was getting there at 5 a.m. Some days I was getting there at, 12 p.m. and, getting off late, getting off early. There's no consistency with the schedule. But now it's, as being like, somebody who's, a fitness enthusiast and, me being a bodybuilder, the routine is just so fucking key.
Yeah.
And just like having that consistent routine and being able to always do that is like life-changing.
Yeah. I think that the big win and I always say this, the big win is not financial. It's none of it. It's waking up every day and just like finally being like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because the worst feeling as a man is feeling lost. Yeah. It's feeling like you don't know your place in the world, or like you're spinning your wheels and you're not making progress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I want to ask your opinion on this too. I kind of want to go back to the steroid stuff. because I noticed you've had a lot of videos specifically talking about Trenbolone.
Yeah.
Get some pretty good numbers. You know, some other people in the industry are stitching it and stuff like that. What's your opinion on that drug?
So it's one of the best drugs in bodybuilding,
Trenbolone.
for sure.
Why?
Because it makes everything just work so much better.
Yeah.
And it is a 100% a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Because not everybody can handle it, you know?
In what way?
And, you know, like mentally, physically, with the side effects.
Okay.
But it's such a powerful drug that you're going to get stronger. You're going to probably stay leaner on it. You're going to grow like a motherfucker. But, like, the side effects almost outweigh the benefits. And I had to learn that the hard way.
How many times have you taken it?
Very many times.
Very many times.
Very many times. So my first cycle taking Tren,
Dozens.
I tapered it up to 1,000 milligrams.
Wow. Oh, I remember you making that video. How long did you run that dose at?
I'm trying to think. So I think I lasted like 2 weeks. On it.
Lasted. So what do you mean you lasted 2 weeks? What does that mean?
So yeah. So
for the people that don't really understand how Tren works, and
yes. Okay. So let's start when I first started that cycle, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually when I first moved back. When I moved back home, I was working landscaping at the time.
Okay.
So I was like, I was like trying to diet, and I was like super active. I was on my feet all day, and you know, I started off taking 350 mgs of Tren. Just like typical dose, right? Everybody starts with 350 mgs because it's like basically a cc every other day.
Yeah.
So got really good results, bigger, leaner, stronger, harder, you know, looking like I was on Tren.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what? Let's just see what happens if I up the dose. There's no reason besides experimentation.
Yes.
You know.
Okay.
So then I went to 500, and then everything started working better.
Okay.
Let's go to 750.
So were the side effects coming with that too?
So there were no side effects yet.
Okay.
There's no side. So like I almost felt like, you know, like when I take Tren, like a good dose of Tren, like a reasonable dose, I actually feel more like mental clarity.
Yes.
And like confidence and just like drive and everything, almost like a really high dose of testosterone.
How old were you when you first took it?
24.
Okay.
23. Sorry, 23.
A lot better than me, bro.
Yeah.
A lot better than
Yeah.
me.
But so the side effects started coming when I was taking 750. And I was like, it was more like the mental side effects. Like I was actually turning into like schizophrenic. like it was like, that's the best way I could describe it.
I love it,
Like,
dude.
but like at the time, like I didn't realize how fucking insane I was because I was so like engulfed in like how good my physique was looking.
Of course.
That's like threw all those fucking side effects aside. I'm like, let's keep taking this shit.
Girlfriend
Yeah.
at the time or
Yes.
single?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that play into the
Fucking
relationship?
terrible.
So because they call Trenbolone the relationship killer.
Oh, it actually, yeah, it fucking killed that relationship. And she still follows my page, so we'll see.
Of course she does. You fucking.
She'll probably see this.
You probably she felt that she probably experienced the Tren as well in a different way.
100%.
That shit, it really does turn you into a beast, and I have to attest to that as well. Like there's a funny story actually. There's this guy. His name was the fuck was his name? I forget his name, but basically this guy, right? This guy was, you know, have you ever heard the name Mariusz Buzanowski? He was like world's strongest man, fucking 8 years in a row, right?
Yeah.
This guy was his coach, and he ended up at our gym.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, this was way before, you know, I'd ever taken like any type of like steroid performance enhancements, anything, right? And he's like telling us back then, right? Which only made us want to do it more. He's like, guys, if there's any drug, stay away from, it's Tren. And we're like, okay, that's the one we're gonna immediately. As soon as this guy's not here, we're gonna do whatever we can to get our hands on this, right? And the way he explained it was, I remember the story he would tell me. He's like, I was on Tren, and like my wife would go to take out the trash, and I would think she's cheating on me. So
yeah, that was my exact thought.
Yeah, and when I remember the first time I took Trenbolone, I was actually I was 20. So I was 20 years old, and it was a homebrew blend, right? So there was this guy who was making Trenbolone like at our gym.
Yeah.
And he was like he was overdosing it. Like it was more, it was like he was trying to make like super Tren. Like where it's like like stronger, like whatever, right? And
do you remember if it was acetate?
it was acetate. Okay. I've never taken Trenbolone and enthate.
Okay.
So for those of you guys that don't know, acetate and enanthate are like the different esters of trenbolone. One's like faster absorbing, one's a longer.
Yeah, we're gonna make somebody fucking take this.
Yeah.
Shit. Like,
The truth is we can't make anyone do anything. This is not health or
but
health
if you
advice.
if you do acetate.
Yeah. If you hypothetically though, acetate would be better. Yeah. So yeah, and I remember I took it and the results, were just fucking incredible. Like I was like losing weight and getting stronger. I remember like I was like 215 and I was like deadlifting like 585 like for reps.
Yeah, that's insane.
And just fucking ripped as fuck. Like I was eating McDonald's like a few times a week. Like it just now those results are typical for someone who already has a base.
Yeah.
Who
let's preface that.
That and has an overall generally like is like 80-90% on their diet and still training really hard, right? Like that, like trenbolone is not necessarily magic. Like if you're like a fat fuck and like you don't work out, you're not going to take Tren and like it's just magic's going to happen.
It's magic if you have all the shit already locked in.
100%. So wow, that's super interesting. And I can attest to that as well. Like when all the times that I took Tren, it's like trenbolone. I'll tell you the craziest cycle I ever took, bro. Trenbolone was one of those things where it was like, it was like a guilty pleasure. Like not even kidding you. In my last relationship, I remember I was like, this was actually when I started on like TikTok. Yeah. And you're going to love this. I was like not training, not eating, like super skinny. And there was this like bottle and a half of Tren acetate and like a couple vials of Sustanon like under my sink, and I would think about it every day. And I'd be like, I'm gonna like, because you know how it is like when you're super lean, or if like you're after like a show and then you start eating, taking the gear, how your physique changes very fast and you stay lean, and that's basically what happened. But
because you were probably like still trying to build back like muscle you lost.
100%.
Yeah. So
and it comes back fast.
So your response was probably insane.
My response was absolutely insane. And I can show you some pictures. Like I'm just like super fucking shredded. And, but what happened was I don't think straight when I'm on Tren.
Yeah.
And every single time I would get on Tren, I would always end up like getting a girlfriend. So I would like take Tren and I'd be like, oh, I love you, like, you know what I mean? Then I'm in a relationship again. But then
so fucking accurate.
but then the Tren would ruin the relationship, and then I'd be like, wait, am I letting this girl control my dreams and goals? And then it became this like this fucking like thing, this like thing where you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna get off the Tren, and then you resent her because you're like, Tren's my baby. Like I'm not gonna like I love Tren more than I love her. You know what I mean? And I remember I ended up buying like 8 vials of Tren acetate, like, and I still have some of it left, and first thing I do is like, it's like, let's say you're like on the outs with a girl and like, you're breaking up and you're, things need to change. Like the only thing on my mind was like starting that Tren. I was like, the second she moves out, I'm getting right on cycle, right on Tren. How do you feel like relationships and like bad breakups tend to, because you've heard the quote before, like breakups make bodybuilders. What's your opinion on that? Did a relationship ever have that effect on you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Quite a few actually.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like it gives you, I would say, temporary motivation for, I would say, 3 to 6 months. And I would say like some of my biggest cycles were after those breakups.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is fucking crazy.
Was there like a recklessness to it?
Yeah.
Where you're like,
okay. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Yeah. So this is crazy, dude. The one time, you obviously know what halotestin is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Take it at
once.
Okay. So there you go. Yeah. Oh no, it was Halodrol.
Also, like the pro-hormone version?
Yeah, yeah. Halodrol, halotestin, whatever. It was like about 20 mgs of that. I remember I did similar to what you did. I was on Tren, and then, I wanted to just experiment, and I took 20 milligrams of Halodrol every day for a week, and I took a cc of Tren, ACE, every single day for a week.
Every day?
Every day. Okay, cc every day.
Yeah, okay.
I did it for a week, and when I tell you, like it was the worst version of myself to ever exist.
Yeah.
Like it was so bad. My digestion was terrible, which by the way, Tren does fuck with your digestion. I don't know if you noticed that. Heartburn, sweating, my ass. I would wake up drenched every single night.
Yep.
I could not, like, my tolerance for bullshit was non-existent. Like I would say things to people that I would never say if I wasn't on Tren.
Yeah.
And
this
like,
shit is like not like good for your fucking brain.
ready
Like,
to fight people in traffic. Like, so it is neurotoxic. Tren is a neurotoxic drug. And for those of you that don't know the history of it, which is actually pretty crazy, is Trenbolone comes from something that's called Finaplex, which I'm sure you kind of know the background on Tren. Finaplex was something, it was like a pellet form, like basically like medication drug that they would give to cattle so that they would they would have basically like heightened protein synthesis and they could basically eat more and fuck and all the things that Tren do to you. They're actually giving this to cattle, right? And they would give Finaplex pellets to the cattle. Well, someone decided to take the Finaplex pellets and melt them down and cook them into an oil and inject them. So whoever that guy was, we thank you. We thank you for doing such a fucking crazy thing. But then that's where I believe it was called Parabolin, which was Tren Hex.
Yeah.
So Tren Hex is the hex is just another ester, like acetate and enanthate. And the Tren Hex Parabolin, they would come in like 76.5 milligram ampules. And this is the type of stuff that like guys in like Arnold's era and the Arnold era and things like, and after that we're taking. But because of, it's, legal reasons, people started making their own. So you end up having all these people that are making different drugs and stuff like that. And what's your opinion on, like pharma grade versus like underground?
So chances are, if you're buying farmer grade online, it's probably not farmer grade.
Yeah.
Just being completely honest. Like
Really?
they're gonna fucking slap on a pharma label and just sell
They put the shiny holographic label on there.
But I mean, if you can get actual good farmer grade gear, it's probably gonna work a little bit better. But chances are, for what a lot of people have access to, it's not gonna make a huge difference. But if we're talking about growth hormone, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Like pharma versus generic growth hormone, like night and day difference for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your experience been with like growth hormone?
So I should preface this. I've actually never taken generic growth hormone before.
Really?
I started right with pharma grade just because every single coach I've had just like advised me against it.
Low dose or like what's kind of?
Yeah. So like moderate dose. I never went above 4 IUs.
That's low.
Yeah, it's like a reason, like just above what they would prescribe, for like HRT or something.
What are some of the benefits that you've noticed from that? I've never taken it.
So I feel like I almost got like a hyper response from it, like more so than somebody else would, just because like I'll explain this a little further, but I took it for about 8 to 9 months. I should probably a little bit more, but I noticed I was able to keep a leaner physique just year round, more like kind of like bubbly. Definitely broke past the genetic plateau in my physique because there's hyperplasia going on.
Yeah,
more muscle cells.
Can you explain what hyperplasia is?
Yeah, so I should preface that too. So hyperplasia versus hypertrophy. So hyperplasia is like when you actually get more muscle cells, and then hypertrophy is actually building those muscle cells up to be bigger. So growth hormone will do that to some extent.
So I heard growth hormone makes everything grow.
What do you mean everything?
Like everything, like every part of your body grow.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So that's more like if you're taking like insulin, IGF-1, like all that kind of stuff, all these other peptides that come with it. Growth hormone, I would say more so just like connective tissue, muscle. If you're combining it with steroids, you can't just take growth hormone alone and expect your tissue to grow, your muscle tissue to grow. But I mean, at least that was my experience with it. Just bigger, leaner, like over a long period of time. You have to take it for a long time.
And it's expensive too, no?
Yeah, it's $600 for a kit of Serostim.
And how long would that last you?
A month. And I was only taking 4 IUs. And that's not a high dose versus guys are taking 8, 10, 12 IUs. That's probably going to run them like over, $2,000 a month.
And I heard that people that are susceptible to cancer, it can actually increase the rate of cancer.
So I feel like if you have a pre-existing tumor that you don't know about,
Yeah.
it can definitely amplify that.
Wow.
But I
What a
wouldn't say
risk.
like, yeah, like I wouldn't say just like, like if you're a healthy male, they wouldn't be prescribing it to, AIDS patients if that wasn't the case.
So let me ask you this, because I'm curious what your opinion is on this, and this is to be really good because you competed. You you don't look like a fucking like regular guy. You obviously look like a bodybuilder, but you don't compete. You still take steroids. I'm curious what your opinion is on this, because a lot of people, they say, well, if you're not competing, don't take steroids. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But then in the inverse, if you think about it, before you were taking steroids, you were competing, and really, like, of course you do it for the glory and you do it for the self, development, and you do it for your own reasons. But at what point were you like, okay, well, I'm going to step away from the competitive side, because you obviously saw that wasn't really bringing you, I mean, again, you can say it in your own words,
Right.
but I'm curious, like, what you think about that. Like, do you feel like you have to compete if you're going to take gear? Do you think it's like this the only time? Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. So I feel like, just kind of like going back to the reason why I started gear in the first place, it enhances so many different areas of your life. Just carrying, like, if you have a goal physique in your head that's not attainable naturally, and it's not attainable naturally, there's nothing wrong with, hopping on cycle and just like living life like that,
Yeah.
Like anybody that says otherwise, like fuck them.
Yeah.
Like it's like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, if you walk around with a good physique and you step on stage with a good physique, I don't see a difference there.
Yeah.
You're doing it for yourself. It's for some form of, self-validation, and there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. That's the thing too, is how long ago was it when you competed? It was last year, right?
It was last year. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How'd you place? Did you place okay?
Yeah. So I did open middleweights, 4th out of 9.
Oh,
So
nice.
I got medaled, but
go.
could have done better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Do you think you'll ever compete again?
So actually, I am next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So actually,
Sick.
I just locked in with with another coach. I don't know if you know him, Chris Fine.
I do know Chris.
Yeah. So
Chris is he's like super shredded, right? Or no?
no, not really. He's like 300 pounds in the off season.
Oh, is
So
he?
yeah, he's at like open heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was the same kind of situation with my other coach. I was like, hey, I just want to, like, be a lifestyle bodybuilder. And he's like, no, you're competing. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it.
That's hilarious.
He's like, you want to be a 212 pro? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not?
That's hilarious.
Just fucking run it.
Do you believe that you could become a 212 pro?
So if I'm doing things right with
Yeah.
the right guidance, I think over the years it's a possibility. But the important thing is just like executing things like a pro and just seeing where it takes me.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
I'm curious what your opinion is on this too. Is like, you've probably noticed that there is and I've noticed this because these are the types of individuals I talk to. Why do you feel like, and I even had this conversation with one of my coaches. He said, I was talking to this guy and I was like, I was offering him my help and blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, I'd rather just work manual labor and blah, blah, blah. Like, why do you feel like why are so many bodybuilders broke? Why is that such a common thing?
So I think, so number one, I think the nature of the sport is very expensive. The food, the gear, the supplements.
They call it a rich man's sport.
Yeah. So I think, if you're doing everything, like if you're a competitive bodybuilder and you are doing everything right, doing like actual, like, non-pussy cycles.
Yeah.
You're buying your growth hormone, you're buying like all the quality food, gym memberships, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's going to add up, and that's going to take a huge kind of dent into your expenses.
Got you.
But the other thing is, like, I feel like it almost limits people. If we're talking about, like leveling up your finances, it almost limits people because they like their routine and they like being in, if they're working at 9 to 5, it's a consistent routine that they can just follow. And I think they get stuck in that routine.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, you've probably seen it, man. It's like the most jacked bodybuilder is not necessarily the most financially well off.
No.
Right. It's really the one who can take the physique and kind of include the business acumen in that too.
Right.
Do you feel like there's been just like being, because I still consider you like a hardcore bodybuilder, but I also feel like there's this kind of, you have an open mind. You're very open-minded. And that's what I like. The two things that I like about you working with you is you're really coachable, you execute, but you also have an open mind. Like you're not afraid to try different things, because really what you're doing right now, you weren't even doing it before.
Oh,
like
fuck
it's
no.
completely different. Like you're making fucking like hooks in your reels to bring people in, and you're messaging, you know, people every day, and you're signing clients. And even now, like you tell me, you know, you get off the flight, you sign a $2,500 client, then another one for $350. It's like, it's so different than it's such a different thing than a 9 to 5. So like, do you feel like there had to be, because I'm sure it was uncomfortable at first. Like the first month was a little difficult because you're having to fundamentally change like your behavior, you know?
Yeah. So I remember there were literally like I would have like car rides home from like my like nightly like gym sessions, and I would just be like thinking in my head like I'm like literally like morphing as a person. And it was like every single day the routine would just become more and more consistent until it was just like, you know, a part of my daily life, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after changing like the main things, you're saying that you noticed, you know, just making some fundamental changes, you noticed that after that point, it really wasn't about like adding all this new shit, but rather increasing by 1% in all those aspects every day is what you're saying. Got you.
Exactly.
Because really, I always look at it this way. It's like, if by the rare chance a bodybuilder can somehow just wake the fuck up and realize like everything that you learn in bodybuilding, all the principles, the character traits that you know start to develop, the mindset, it directly translates to business success. And I always thought, you know, that's not true, right? But it is. It is, you know, and I always
it's the same thing.
It's the same exact thing.
I think one thing you've helped me with is just like having like the bodybuilding parallels, like when we have our one-on-one calls.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same shit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you know, when you first start training, you don't think about all these like small little like tweaks and changes and stuff. You just do the fundamentals consistently, and then you're doing your job.
100%. Yeah.
Same thing with the business, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the way I coach too is, I mean, 99% of my clients are either bodybuilders or people that are fucking ripped as fuck that should be making money off their physique. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, to be honest with you guys, like I'll see someone that follows me and I'll be like, I am not prepared to let this person down. I know for sure they're not making the money that they want, and that physique deserves to make more money.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where I started to get a soft spot, because I was like, dude, I remember being like 250, like working the grill at fucking McDonald's, like 18 years old, 250 pounds.
Zero sense.
It's so emasculating, and it's so like, I feel like there's this common like thing with bodybuilders where people think you're dumb, people think you're a meathead, you know, people they make jokes, but really it's demeaning you.
That's the opposite of the truth. Because like you've now learned like so many like fundamental things about the human body.
Yes.
Just from your own experience that you can now teach other people.
100%. It's super valuable. It's super valuable.
Yeah, and if you have that skill and you're working, like you said, at McDonald's, fucking packing fries in a bag, it's like nobody gives a shit about your biceps. It's like, no, put the fries in my bag.
I love it, man. I love it. So let's do this. Let's before we end, I'm curious what you know you have to say here, but like for anyone that's like, we'll say specifically like a bodybuilder who loves the sport, they could fucking recite pumping iron, fucking start to finish. You know, they know who's who in the sport. They study it, they live by it. You know, but they feel extremely torn because they love bodybuilding so much. It takes up all their time and energy, but they also are suffering financially. What's like some advice you could give someone in that situation?
I would say if it's important to, you know, if your situation sucks that bad, then just throw yourself in the fire.
Yeah.
That was basically the conversation I had with myself doing this. It was a conversation I had with myself first going into Equinox. Was just throw myself in the fire and just figure it out.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have everything figured out at first.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, it doesn't really matter that you're going to fuck up or have mistakes or whatever. It's just fucking do it.
Yeah.
And it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
You know?
because you probably messed up a lot in bodybuilding and you learned because of it.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool, bro. Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you and people want you to be their coach, how can they find you?
So right now, through Instagram, Evan Quinn Fitness.
Cool.
That's about it.
Cool.
Don't have TikTok. Probably won't get TikTok unless you fucking advise me
No
to get
TikTok.
No
Yeah,
TikTok.
I coach. I the way I coach my clients is we don't really push TikTok much.
Yeah.
I push most of my clients to build their Instagram and then maybe some YouTube stuff if we decide to do that, but primarily Instagram. And yeah, I'll say this too. You know, before we head off. And you can drop you already dropped your tags, Evan Quinn Fitness. That's the thing. You know, is like the opportunity is out there for a lot of you guys that are bodybuilders, that are personal trainers. You know, something that really made me wake up was, you know, I remember, I'm not gonna say where or who it was, but let's just say I was at a gym in Pennsylvania, and I saw this guy who was like top bodybuilder at the New York Pro, and he was literally competing against like back in the day, competed against like Victor Martinez. Like he was like that high level, right? Most jacked human I've ever seen in my life, like insane, like 20 fucking 3-inch arms, just insane. And I would watch this dude leave, and he would leave the gym in a piece of shit, beat up car. Now, again, not going to judge. I just noticed that. And I would notice when he would like make his content at home, he lived in like a shitty, like fucking apartment. And he was always like desperate for signing clients. He was like always at the gym, like trying to sell people on like you could tell he was desperate for money. And that made me wake up, because there's a level of comfort that you find in the bodybuilding routine. Everything could be crashing down around you, but if you get your 6 meals a day and you train 2 hours and you pin your fucking steroids, a lot of times it's really fucking easy to justify why other things in your life are not going how they should, because you have the bodybuilding. But I've just noticed that that's no way to live. And so if that resonates with you, you know, it may be time to just think about alternative options. You know what I mean? Because nothing's going to change if you don't change, you know?
Exactly.
I always think like, look at the trajectory of the next 5 years. Is it worth it to continue doing what you're doing? Or is it worth it to maybe just try a different approach and take a risk?
Exactly.
Throw yourself into the fire.
Exactly.
Love it, man. Well, Evan, thanks for coming out, bro. It's been
Absolutely,
an amazing conversation. And if you guys want to find Evan at Evan Quinn Fitness, right, on Instagram, you can hit him up there. Hit him up on Instagram DMs, and I'm at Game No Victim on everything. Guys, this is episode 11, the No Victim Podcast. Peace, dude. Sick. How'd you feel about that?
That was good.
Was that your first pod?
Yeah.